Good evening. It's 7 o'clock, and I'd like to call this meeting of the Urbana City Council to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Ammons, Mr. Brown,
Here.
Mr. Jacobson,
Here.
Mr. Madigan,
Here.
Ms. Marlin,
Here.
Mr. Roberts,
Here.
Mr. Smythe,
Here.
Mayor Pressing.
Here. The first item is the approval of the minutes of August 5th, 2013.
I move approval.
Motion by Dennis Roberts, seconded by Charlie Smythe. Any additions or corrections to the minutes? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries. Additions to the agenda. Are there any other additions to the agenda besides the presentation? Okay, we'll start with Tom Lee. Is that how you pronounce your name? Lay of Good Energy. What, do you want to come up to the microphone?
Thank you, Mayor. And council members, thank you for having us. I represent Good Energy, and you may recall that Good Energy is the consulting firm that's retained a year and a half or so ago by the City of Urbana to manage the residential electric aggregation program that's currently in place. And we continue to manage that program. The current contract that was awarded back in 2012 had a 2-year lifespan on it, and it currently runs through June of 2014. So the price that the Urbana residents that are participating in the program at the residential level that are currently receiving, that's been a fixed price throughout that term, and it will continue to be fixed at that point until roughly the June timeframe. But the commodity markets that populate what goes into that price at the wholesale level that make up the underlying price of the retail level, those move every day. Unlike the utility tariff, that the default utility price that the residential accounts would be on if they didn't participate in the program, that only changes once a year. The commodity markets move every day, just like any other commodity market, just like agricultural commodities, other energy commodities like oil and natural gas. And so in preparing for the next phase of the residential aggregation program after the June 2014 time frame, we've continued to follow the markets, and we see a very favorable buying opportunity based upon some market activity that is basically in the buyer's favor at this point. So we communicated with Mike Munson and the other communities that we work with in Illinois, specifically in the Ameren service area, which number more than 150, and about 100 of those 150 communities have the same termination time frame of their existing electric aggregation program. So our plan is to conduct a procurement event coming up this fall while the commodity market prices are at a very favorable price. And I'd like to run through a few slides to kind of go through how that process will work, the timing, some of the underlying aspects before it here. So. Okay, everybody see that okay? All right, terrific. We've provided these materials that I'm going to go through to Mike Munson and city staff, so they're available for him to distribute and provide in electronic form if it would help you for follow-up. But basically, as I mentioned, the community's current price expires around June 2014. The new contract term that gets awarded after that, should the City of Urbana elect to move ahead with a new contract at this point, will not require another referendum, but it does require a number of tasks. The first thing, the most immediate thing in front of the council, would be to pass a resolution which grants authority to a designee of the city to participate in a bid procurement event, of which we'd have another 100 or so communities in southern Illinois participating. So we have tremendous buying power. We'd have about twice the number of communities participating in this fall event as we had in the initial event when the city's original program was initiated. So I understand that the next action opportunity would be the September 3rd council meeting agenda. So we would ask that should you elect to go ahead after I outline the approach, we'd put that on the September 3rd agenda for the meeting and grant that authority to the individual to participate in that event and to execute a contract should the pricing come in the way we expect it to be at very favorable levels. We would expect that would occur late September or early October. We haven't set a date yet, and we actually keep the date as close to our vest as possible because it does have an impact on market movement because it is a large number of communities buying. But we will establish the date in the near future. But this is the time frame that we expect it to happen. We will also review and update the plan of operation and governance, which was enacted by the council when the initial program was put in place, for any amendments or updates that are appropriate for the new terms of the contract, and determine options regarding the renewable energy. As you recall, the city of Urbana participated in purchasing discretionary or voluntary renewable energy beyond what the state of Illinois requires. And also, if there's any civic fee involved, that's another set of decisions that would need to be made prior, so we can put those items in the contract. And by gaining this authority, the city will have the maximum flexibility to execute a new agreement with an alternative retail electric supplier, or ARES. What we've been doing in the meantime, because we continue to work with and support the city, is do market analyses. I'm going to go through some of the results of that and pricing forecasts, a review of the regulatory impacts, including the development of natural gas aggregation programs. Those continue to move forward. We are certainly advocating for natural gas aggregation. It is not authorized by the Illinois State Legislature at this point, but there are a number of communities and constituents that certainly are supporting it, and we represent our clients in making sure that their voice is heard in that process. We would negotiate the terms and conditions with the bidding suppliers prior to the bid, just as we did in the first round. We would analyze and forecast Ameren's residential electric tariff going forward. There's some just very recently released data on that as to what the future price movement is likely to be on the Ameren residential electric tariff. So we'll continue to digest that and provide feedback to the city staff for that. We manage the perpetual opt-out process. This is very important in the city of Urbana that has, of course, a student population, a lot of 9-month, 10-month lease contracts, and so the electric account is terminated when one resident moves out, and a new electric account number for the same residence is issued by Ameren at the time that the new resident moves in. And by law, the new resident is automatically put on the Ameren utility tariff. So what we do is a couple of times a month we scan through Ameren's data and we scan through this for hundreds of communities, but Urbana is one that has the most activity. And we send letters out to those new account holders to notify them of the existence of this program, the discount, the lower price that they can receive, and we manage that opt-out process on an individual basis. So we've continued to do that throughout the term, and we'll continue that going forward. And that's a very important service to make sure subscription rates stay high and that the new account holders get the benefits of the lower market price. And then we manage the aggregation to the benefit of all participating members through the group buying process, much better than what the city could get on its own. So the bidding process, we will solicit firm offers for the electric supply beginning with June 2014. If a contract is awarded this fall, that would not affect the existing term or the existing price. This would be locking in a price for a term to be determined going forward at the end of the existing term. We'll bid multiple term lengths, and then the city, along with the other participants, would get to decide what term they want to award, if any. And again, the original term was 24 months. That's pretty consistent with what we would expect pricing to be very favorable going forward, but it certainly is at the city's representative's discretion. We certainly have a recommendation at the time that we see the final prices on bid day, and we will make a recommendation, but ultimately the city does have the discretion to select a term or not to sign a contract. So the bid, the products that we solicit will include options for voluntary renewable energy, as we did previously, in percentages of 50 or 100%. I think in the first round we just did 100%, and we've added a 50%. Basically half of the energy could be voluntarily renewable in this fall event. We'll manage the award of any contracts, negotiate, oversee the execution of the agreements, and then the new contract price and term will require another opt-out process where the eligible customers are notified of the new term, and we go through the opt-out process where they're sent a letter to the account holder's address, and then if they determine that they want to accept that, then they just take no action. And then we'll continue to audit the enrollment of the community, the accuracy of the bills, and the collection and disbursement of the applicable fees as they're called for in the contract. This is just a quick graphic which summarizes the utility tariffs compared to the market prices that we see. The blue bar represents what the Ameren tariff has been over time, and the red bars represent what the market price opportunities are. Up until 2013, they are historical prices, so we know those were the actual prices for what the utility service for supply is, and then the market opportunity. And we see there's upward pressure on both of them. We do see inflation in the electric markets and energy commodities, but market continues to outperform the utility tariff. The utility tariff rate making is not particularly efficient. It emphasizes reliability over the least cost supply options, and we're able to provide a more favorable price. This is a forecast, so all forecasts are based upon existing data at the time, but we feel very confident that the market prices are going to continue to outperform the utility tariff for the foreseeable future. We do, over the longer term, see upward price pressure, though. This, again, is just a quick graphic that illustrates what the wholesale prices are doing. In this case, the prices represented here are spot prices. That is the nearest term price. It's the actual hourly price that is traded on the wholesale market. Ultimately, those prices go into what the forward markets, the market prices are, and year to date through June 30th, we've seen increases in those prices. The first half of the year, we had price increases. The point in Illinois there is the MISO, or the Midwest Independent System Operator. That is actually the authority that operates the wholesale market as a clearinghouse. There's been a 22% increase in those spot prices. Now, that doesn't move the city of Urbana's price because your price is fixed through the contract. But we're seeing those buyers and the traders that participate in, we're seeing upward price pressure. So now is a good time to buy. This is the last graphic that I have. It's one of my favorites, but my coworkers tell me that I get lost in the details sometimes. So I'll certainly try to put it in a position that makes it relevant. And this is about 2 years of price history. And again, at the wholesale market, the underlying price, these aren't the end prices that we see, but you see each of these lines moves around quite a bit. We get a new price every day for what the forward price is for a particular time period. Each of those colored lines represents a time period. The blue line represents the year 2014. If I wanted to go on the wholesale market today and buy a block of power for delivery in 2014, just like I might buy soybean futures price or a hog's future price or an oil future price to invest in that, you would buy at these various price points. The red line indicates 2015 because it's further out, the price tends to be higher. And the orange line represents 2016. Again, because it's further from today's point in time, the price is a bit higher. So what's really important is not what the actual price is, but what is the price movement? What are these prices relative today to what they have been in the past and what they are likely to be in the future? So if you look at the farthest right portion of the graph, we see consistent downward movement. There's a little bit of a hump there on the farthest right, but the most recent data is a very steep decline. There's a variety of reasons for that. The primary reasons are 2013 was expected to be, from an electric consumption standpoint, our big recovery year. Obviously, we've lost a lot of electric demand, a lot of electric load because of economic factors since 2000, the recession of 2008 and subsequent years. 2013 was supposed to be the big recovery year. In the first half of the year, if you look a little further left on the graph, you see there was price pressure upward. The graph tracked up. Those prices were trading at higher levels. Again, didn't affect the city of Urbana's residence price because that's locked in by contract. So 2013 looked like the first half was going to be a big recovery, but when we got to the end of the second quarter and the results were in of corporate profits, manufacturing, all of the macroeconomic factors that go into the drivers of our economy, construction, housing, even though we see recovery there, it wasn't at the level that it was forecast. And so some pessimism set in, and the big supplier, the big generators that produce the electricity at the wholesale level were behind on their forecasts and their commitments to their investors in 2013. So that drives prices down. It's a buyer's market. And basically what's happening is we see the large generators at the wholesale level are now scrambling to finish 2013 and make up where they're short in their earnings. So they're trying to attract more sales. They're trying to attract more customers, and That's done largely in the commodity markets by lowering your price. And then when one market participant does it, others follow. That's what makes a competitive market. And so we see downward price levels. And if we look at the price levels, and that's what the little black bars indicate, relative to some previous price levels, even though it's not always an apples-to-apples comparison, we see that this is a very favorable price level. We don't expect that to continue beyond 2013. When you have big changes in direction of any commodity, whether it's down or up, that's sustained over a period of days and weeks, it doesn't last forever. It ultimately reverses itself. And so we're expecting that at the end of the third quarter and into the fourth quarter, we'll see some recovery in prices. And so that's why we feel now this is a very strong buying opportunity. And we also feel that waiting till closer to the end of the natural expiration of the contract, you're really kind of inadvertently gambling as to what the price levels are at that point. Because if we get into, let's say, April, we have to go through an opt-out process, which takes about 60 days to complete that cycle. If we wait till then and we don't like what the price levels are, you pretty much have to be a price taker. You pretty much have to accept that price because you're so close to the expiration of the contract. So that's why we feel that because the price levels are very favorable and you've got time in case the bids from the suppliers that we would pre-qualify for this process don't come in as expected, the city isn't right up against the expiration of the contract, and we could run another bid event at some point in the future. So these are some of the reasons that we feel it's important to move in the fall. And we think giving authorization through this resolution at the September 3rd meeting would give the city maximum flexibility to enact a contract should the price levels come in favorable, reflecting what we're seeing in market movement here. And if not, we'd just repeat the same process at some point later on down the road.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Lay? You want to say something, Mike? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to let the council know that next week we'll be coming with a resolution asking to authorize the mayor to accept bids, and also a resolution extending Good Energy's contract beyond the current one. We'll have a cover memo, and Scott and I will answer any questions, but we wanted Tom to be here so he could have time to think about it and ask him any questions.
Eric.
Just a comment. It seems to me we're gambling about the future, kind of the way farmers do all the time, whatever we do. But you know, your assessment sounds very reasonable. But can I ask if we, you know, if the bids come in as you would guess that they would, if we take the action that you suggest, where does that move the where will that move the price to our consumers, to our citizens?
Yeah, that's a good question. The overall pricing, which goes in to make the single price, because I'm showing several years here, to make the single price that residents pay at the retail level, is going to be higher. That would be my forecast, than the current rate. When the initial contract was enacted, I think we're at nominally about the 4-cent level, give or take, for participants in Urbana's program. We're seeing still in the low 4s, but the price is going to be somewhat higher than the current rate. We can't renew contracts for future periods and continually lower the existing price. Otherwise, they would ultimately go to zero. So there is some. There would be a small percentage increase because that's what the forward markets are showing, and all electricity prices would would carry that through, including the Ameren utility tariff.
Yeah, I guess I'm a little puzzled though, because the prices that assuming that we get something that reflects what things are now, they are lower than they were a year ago.
Yes, and that's the data not shown on this graph is what the price levels were for 2012 energy wholesale markets, because the contract started in 2012, so it had 7 months of the 2012 underlying wholesale price, and it also had all of 2013, and of course those portions of the term have passed. Those were at lower prices, so we picked the blue line, which is 2014, as a reference price, because that is the year that there are portions of 2014 wholesale prices blended in to the city's current rate of 4 cents, and it would also blend in portions of 2014, because we would start with, in essence, June and July and the balance of 2014. So we felt that was the best benchmark. So 2014, in and of itself, is at lower levels. But we have the red line and the orange line, 15 and 16, which are slightly higher.
Well, I guess I don't quite have my head around it. I'm actually looking at another graph that's similar to the one you have. It's from a company called Prospect Resources. I guess I'll have to think about this offline, but I don't. Yeah, I do understand, but all of the lines, all of the different colored lines, are lower than they were a year ago. At least on the graph that I'm looking at, and so now I guess if I understand your comment, well, I guess I don't understand it. If the prices, if the price that we expect, if the market trend is such that the price at the time that we expect to bid is lower than it was a year ago, and if it has been more or less continually trending down, although it's been fluctuating, I'm just puzzled that the rate, I just can't square that.
Well,
in my head.
you consume 2013. That's gone. That's history. It's
Right.
It's not on the graph. 2013 levels were lower, but they're gone. 2015 is higher by all accounts. There were no 2015 prices in the current price, and no 2016 prices. So the future prices are going to be higher than the current price.
Okay.
And if Prospect Resources has data from the relevant wholesale market, it'll show the same thing.
Yeah, it looks very similar to your graph.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll think about that.
And like I said, the discussion can get a little bit esoteric, so I apologize for that. But the important thing is not what the absolute price is, as much as what is the relative movement, because all buyers, whether they're members of this program or others, are always buying from this market at future dates, locking in a price for future dates. So, and we're seeing downward pressure there, but the absolute price for a future date is higher than the absolute price for a previous date. I hope that helps.
All right. It gives me a little clue as to how I should start thinking about it.
Okay, good.
Charlie?
Can we talk a bit about renewables?
Sure.
What's out there? Any changes? Any chances of getting mostly Illinois or some combination of Illinois and others?
Sure. The current blend of renewables that you have are U.S. generated and basically primarily from the Midwest, but they are not limited to Illinois. If we do limit it to Illinois for a variety of reasons, economic development, support of local investment and such, that's a smaller pool. It raises the price. So if we would specify specific, like in-state, the state did that actually a few years ago, and they dropped that because it actually ended up costing more than 100% more to specify in-state. We've even had buyers try to pursue from particular locations or combinations of counties, and again, when you make your market smaller, there's a premium that you pay because the market is smaller. We could solicit that. That would be a one-off, and we would see that it would be significantly more expensive than the current price levels we're seeing for the U.S. generated, which will include a significant amount of Illinois, just because Illinois is a pretty large producer, but we also have the Dakotas, Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas that we're also can get access to.
I think it's probably more important the type of renewable
Sure.
that's out there. And are we going to tighten up the definition a little bit this time around?
Yes, they're going to go with the recs. I understand.
You wanna get your mic?
They are going to, I was told that you're going to go with the recs that go back 6 months into the prior year, but no older.
Yeah, if we want to specify a vintage, we can do that as well. And the current contract conforms with what the Illinois Renewable Portfolio Standard is. It has a longer vintage than what you just mentioned there, Mike.
No.
So we could make the vintage shorter. It will raise the price.
We have asked Gary, the green guy at Good Energy, to look into rec prices from the local wind farms in Bloomington and here. We'll see what kind of price they might offer.
Okay, Dennis, did you have a question too?
Yeah. Yeah, you said that you were kind of favoring the an increase in looking for power sources from natural gas.
Yes.
That you're suggesting that we increase that. And would that be replacing the main source of gas, which would be coal-fired?
I'm sorry, let me clarify. My reference to natural gas was for the consumption of natural gas for heating use to go through to be authorized by the state, a similar process of community aggregation. It's not the fuel source of the generation.
Oh, okay.
So
Thank you.
the current blend of fuel source of generation, however, does have an increasing amount of natural gas in it that is replacing coal plants that are being retired.
Diane?
Can you share what the percent opt-out rate is in Urbana if it's not proprietary? And is it similar to the other communities you're dealing with?
It is very favorable. The initial opt-out rate was about 7%, so about 93% of the initial accounts that were offered back in 2012 accepted that, and that was slightly above average compared to the pool of our other communities. And since then, we have a much higher rate. We have a 97% acceptance rate for the ongoing opt-out process. So usually if someone doesn't accept it, it's generally not based on economics. It's usually because they're short-term. They're only going to be in their residence for a short period of time.
So what's the average for your whole group?
It's about 91%.
Thanks.
That has increased as well. Urbana was in the initial round of communities in southern Illinois, at least, and so awareness and understanding of this process and customer choice at the residential level was very low at that time. In subsequent rounds, and there's been, of course, quite a bit of publicity around it and neighbor-to-neighbor comparisons, we have seen those opt-out rates drop, so subscription percentages have increased.
Did you have a question, Bill?
On comparing this graph to what we're paying now, I think, would we add the extra 1/10 of a cent for what the city's getting? So, like, if I'm looking at the $39 or $40 on the left, I'd really added like $1.50 to that to compare to what we're getting rates now, because I think our rate includes 1/10% plus a 500th or a 100% or cent.
You're right about the add-ons for a civic fee and then renewable energy, whatever addition that is. But these are wholesale prices, so these represent relevant indicative price levels. But to convert it to a retail price, there are other additions.
Okay.
This is for a block of power, and of course we don't consume power in blocks. We consume it based upon daylight, on-peak, off-peak, weekends. And so that shaping does add some cost, about 7%. And then there's also transmission at the wholesale level that the supplier is responsible for, and that adds a certain number of mils, of percentages. But you can see the relevance to the actual price is pretty close. So the primary the reason I talk about the wholesale market, even though that's not the actual price you pay, is that is what makes up the bulk of the price.
Okay, and then it almost looked to me like there's a little bit of a seasonal trend. In August, it seems like prices were falling a little bit both years. Is that just in the graph, or is that something that usually happens?
Currently, we're seeing that.
Well, and last year
we
too,
saw that
but
at about the same time last year. I've studied this for a number of. I've made my career in wholesale electricity trading, marketing, and I can tell you that isn't necessarily a trend you can count on every year. I wouldn't call it a pure coincidence because we were expecting 2012 to be a big economic recovery year. So there was some similar patterns that probably would be relevant there. But overall, I'd say you can't count on it like clockwork.
And then just one last one. Sure. So I see from the report we were provided that Ameren's rate went down to 4.6 cents about. So we're saving about 15% now, whereas we started out saving about 25% or so. And that's they put that out in June for a year, I guess. And you said we would get some advance notice. Do you know about what time of year we would find out next June's rate?
Yeah, the official publication of that of the rate for the period that is June 2014 through May of 2015 will not occur until shortly before the delivery period, so late April or early May. We do get some early forecast information, but there's a very rigorous process to approve that. Right now, we're seeing some slight upward pressure in some of the future tariffs, largely because of purchases that the utility was required to make previously, and they already at previous price levels that they're already holding that power, so they will have to settle that.
Thanks.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes, Mike?
So, Tom, of the 8% of the renewable sources of energy in your graph that are included in the sources of electricity supplied, what does that add per kilowatt hour in price, or for the average customer for a month or a year?
I'll speak off the top of my head and subject to check, but for the average user, it adds about $8 a year. Yeah, again, that's an average, so that's a quote unquote, and that's for 100%. Basically, if you want to buy enough renewable energy credits to fill the gap between the renewable portfolio standard minimum that all buyers have to purchase and the full load, so puts it in perspective.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to petitions and communications. And I have Bishop King James and Reverend Dr. Evelyn Underwood, and they would like to, they don't want to speak, but they want to say they're concerned about the Dr. Ellis sewer problems. They continue to be concerned. Okay. We'll move on. Unfinished business. We don't have any unfinished business to deal with tonight, so reports of standing committees, the Committee of the Whole. That was Mike Madigan.
Okay. So the Committee of the Whole voted to send to the council a motion providing direction that upon being granted an easement from Alan Strong on 115 and 119 North Ray Street, the city will release its demolition lien on the two parcels.
Okay, Libby Tyler, do you want to comment on that?
No updates, just try to answer some questions.
Okay, anybody want to ask a question of Libby? So, did you make a motion or not?
No, I didn't.
I think the
I'll
chairman.
second that.
So
Okay.
is there a motion?
Is that
You-
I
okay?
think
made
you
the
make
motion.
the motion.
I so move.
Okay,
All right.
Initiate the motion.
I got you. I'm
okay.
new at this.
And Diane seconds it?
Second.
Okay. All right. Any discussion? Do you want to vote on this by roll call? Okay,
Not for a motion, you just need a voice vote for that.
okay, well, unless there's a desire to do it. All right. Did you want to,
Yeah, why don't we do it on roll call? I make
anyone else?
make a request. Why not?
Okay, would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson,
Yes?
Mr. Madigan,
Yes.
Ms. Marlin,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Smythe.
Yes.
That motion carries. Mike Madigan.
Madam Mayor, I'll need to recuse myself for the next three ordinance issues.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll do them.
Okay,
All right, I'll do these. These are concerning liquor license changes. I'll do them one at a time. Ordinance number 2013-08-067, an ordinance amending Urbana City Code, Chapter 3, Section 343, increasing the number of Class A liquor licenses for VIP Banquet Hall Incorporated at 1506 North Cunningham Avenue. And for the committee, I move approval.
who did the second? Was that Charlie?
Charlie?
Okay. Motion by Dennis Roberts, seconded by Charlie Smythe. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Ms. Marlin,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Smythe.
That motion carries.
Ordinance number 2013-08-068, an ordinance amending Urbana City Code, Chapter 3, Section 343, increasing the number of Class BBB liquor licenses for Kroger Limited Partnership 1. This is for the Ruler Store on South Fowler Road. For the committee, I move approval.
Second.
Okay, motion by Dennis Roberts, seconded by Diane Marlin. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson,
Yes?
Ms. Marlin,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Smythe.
Yes.
That motion carries.
Ordinance number 2013-08-069, an ordinance amending Urbana City Code, Chapter 3, Section 3-43, increasing the number of R2 liquor licenses for Matthew Kitzmiller at Pizza M at 208 West Main Street. And for the committee, I move approval.
Second.
Motion by Dennis Roberts, seconded by Charlie Smythe. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson,
Yes?
Ms. Marlin,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Smythe.
That motion carries.
Great.
Mr. Madigan.
Okay, the committee forwarded to the council resolution number 2013-08-41R, a resolution approving a community development block grant program agreement. Champaign County Regional Planning Commission Senior Services, project number 1314-CSSP-01. On behalf of the committee, I move its approval.
Motion by Madigan, seconded by Smythe. Any discussion? Do we need a roll call on this one, Madam Clerk? Okay. Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries.
Okay, the committee advanced to the council resolution number 2013-08-42R, resolution approving a community development block grant program agreement, Community Elements Roundhouse Youth Shelter, project number 1314-CSSP-02. On behalf of the committee, I move for its approval.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Madigan, seconded by Smythe, I believe. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries.
The committee advanced to the council resolution number 2013-08-043R, resolution approving a community development block grant program agreement, Greater Community AIDS Project, project number 1314-CSSP-03. On behalf of the committee, I move for its approval.
Second.
Motion by Madigan, seconded by Marlin. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries.
The committee advanced to the council resolution number 2013-08-038R, a resolution certifying a community housing development organization for the Urbana Home Consortium for fiscal year 2013-14, August 2013 Habitat. On behalf of the committee, I move its approval.
Second.
Motion by Madigan, seconded by Smythe. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries.
The committee advanced to the council resolution number 2013-08-039R, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an Urbana Home Consortium Community Housing Development Organization Agreement, Habitat Community Housing Development Organization Agreement, Developer Affordable Homeownership Program at 810 East Park Street. On behalf of the committee, I move its approval.
Motion by Madigan, seconded by Smythe. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries.
The committee advanced to the council resolution number 2013-08-040R, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an Urbana Home Consortium Community Development Organization Agreement, Habitat, Community Housing Development Organization Agreement, operating August 2013. On behalf of the committee, I move its approval.
Second.
Okay, motion by Madigan, seconded by Jacobson. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries. Okay, reports of special committees. Do we have a report of a special committee? Reports of officers. Did you want to say something? We have our acting fire chief, Brian Neitlinger.
Hello, thanks for letting me speak. In front of you, this sheet that's orange colored was passed out before the meeting. I'd like to extend an invitation to Mayor Pressing and the council and the city staff to a presentation that Urbana is co-sponsoring with Champaign Fire and U of I Fire Institute. This is going to be happening on September 16th, 17th, and 18th. We're going to run 2 sessions a day, a morning session and an afternoon session. And the subject matter is a presentation by 2 survivors of a dormitory fire at Seton Hall University in January of 2000. There's been a documentary produced that's a popular documentary as far as promoting safety in college dorms, and we felt, as far as for the safety of our students on campus, that it was a worthwhile endeavor for us to present this. We'll be presenting to our fire crews in Champaign and Urbana on these 3 dates in the morning and afternoon, and you guys are all invited, and the public, and the registration is through the Illinois Fire Service Institute. And if you have any questions about that, please contact me, and I'd like to make sure as many people from the city attend this training as possible. We're also sponsoring a session on September 17th in the evening, and that'll be for the resident assistants and for the kids on campus to attend. And again, our fire department is a very strong fire prevention fire department. We would rather prevent these fires than have to put them out and have to drag these kids out of these fires. And so we're sponsoring that for the students that night. And again, this year we're going to be attending move-in day at the U of I dorms in our city, and our firefighters on our fire prevention team will be passing out safety material in line, along with some community development folks. And we catch these families and these kids while they're in line waiting to move into their dorms. And it's a really good time to talk with the parents, talk with the students on how to set their dorms up, how to safely live on campus, and it's been very successful. We've done it for a number of years, and we'll be doing it again this Thursday on campus. So if you have any questions about this presentation, please see me. It's a very worthwhile presentation. I'd like to encourage everybody to attend. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other reports of officers? Okay, we'll move on to new business. Ordinance number 2013-08-074, an ordinance amending the zoning map of the city of Urbana, rezoning of 4 parcels comprising .689 acres located north of Church Street and west of Lincoln Avenue from R2 single-family residential zoning to B2 neighborhood business arterial zoning district. And we have Rebecca Bird, and then Howard Wakeland would like to talk.
Good evening. This is a rezoning application for 4 properties at the northwest intersection of Lincoln Avenue and Church Street, which is just north of University Avenue. All of the properties are owned by the petitioner. The petitioner has applied to rezone the properties in this block a number of times in recent years, and going back to 2008 as well. There have been different configurations and different commercial zoning districts have been applied for. The current application differs from the earlier applications in that it is smaller. It's just 4 properties. The earlier applications were between 9 and 11 properties on the block. And this is just for 1 lot that fronts on Lincoln Avenue and then 3 that front on Church Street. The neighborhood is currently, the subject properties are zoned R2, and they're on the edge of a single-family residential neighborhood. The area is in transition. Lincoln Avenue and University Avenue are both major commercial corridors. The properties do front on Lincoln, which is an arterial street. They are adjacent to an industrial use, the Illinois American Water Treatment Plant to their south, and they are near the Carle Hospital campus, which is a major medical use. In your packet, you do have details about the current zoning of the subject properties as well as the surrounding neighborhood, the existing land uses, the future land uses, the future land use designations in the comprehensive plan, as well as relevant goals and objectives from the comprehensive plan, and a discussion of the advantages and disadvantages of the rezoning application. Some of the key points in support of the rezoning: 3 of the 4 lots in the application are currently vacant properties, and under the current zoning, they could really only be developed as single-family residences, which is somewhat unlikely as they are adjacent to an industrial use and due to their location off of Lincoln Avenue. Commercial A commercial zoning district is consistent with the comprehensive plan future land use designation of community business. The B2 zoning district, which is what is applied for, it's neighborhood business arterial, and it is intended to provide areas of limited size along arterials in close proximity to low-density residential areas for a limited range of basic commercial trade and personal services, which fits well with the community business future land use designation. Key points that might not support the rezoning: redevelopment potential would be limited due to a limited visibility from Lincoln Avenue from a major street, although that does mean that it's probably the best configuration to protect the adjacent single-family residential properties. It would nonetheless allow development at a higher intensity than is currently permitted, which might present a conflict with adjacent owner-occupied residential properties. There are two owner-occupied residences in the larger block that are not owned by the applicant. The other properties in the block are owned by the applicant. There's a discussion in your packet of the LaSalle criteria, which is the legal basis for rezonings in the state of Illinois. At the Plan Commission on July 2nd and July 18th, there were public hearings to discuss the application. At the July 18th public hearing, a neighbor from 903 West Hill Street did speak against the application. She is one of the owners of one of the two properties not owned by the applicant in that block. Following discussion, the Plan Commission voted 3 ayes and 1 nay to recommend approval of the application. And I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Dennis?
Yeah. I guess I've got 2 questions. Currently the Church Street at that location is not well developed. It looks more like an alley than a street. I understand it. I don't know what the width of the street is. Maybe it's probably an adequate 21-foot wide, but it's a dead end and it's not currently used. So if there was going to be any kind of construction on this site at all that wasn't just residential, what's the impact and how does that impact the intersection just south of it as far as ingress and egress of more traffic? I know that as you get closer to a major intersection, you're trying to limit traffic flow onto the street, and one of the purposes of trying to reconfigure some of the properties along this block, one of the arguments for it was that it would close off some residential driveways that require people to back onto the street. So what would the city's responsibility be for maintaining Church Street if it was going to be a busier street?
As I understand it, the intersection at Church and Lincoln has been upgraded just at the intersection. It does not extend very far to the west beyond the intersection, so the developer would be required to upgrade to make any upgrades on that street. As I understand it, it is wide enough to handle two-way traffic, though. But I think it would require some upgrades that would need to be done by the applicant.
And why would the applicant be required to do it rather than the city taking care of the street? Is this going to become like a private street?
No, the city would maintain the street, but the applicant would be required to make the upgrades, and I think that's our standard practice.
For development, if there was going to be development there. In other words, we might be talking about curb installation or something like that.
I'm not sure what would be involved. I don't know if Bill or Libby could address that. Or not. There is a traffic signal, and so it was anticipated that at some point there would be further traffic.
Okay. And then my second question is, of course, we're just doing the zoning right now. We're not looking at an application for a real project. In the minutes of the Planning Commission meeting, Mr. Wakeland, the applicant, said that he would like to build an office building, and storage unit, and I could see that an office building meets the criteria for the commercial use and business use that serves the residential community. Can you comment on storage units? And are we talking? I guess since we don't have an application about a real project, I don't know if we're talking about storing dump trucks, or we're just storing building supplies or cups and paper plates.
The applicant did indicate that he was interested in moving his property maintenance business from the south east corner of Lincoln and University, where the building that has hedgerow in it, that's where his property maintenance, property rental company is located now, and he was interested in moving it. It would be mainly, as I understand it, mainly an office building, but there would be some types of storage for that, for his business. But any development on those properties, if they are rezoned to B2, would be required to be consistent with the B2 zoning uses that are allowed.
So we're not going to be looking at a request for a truck garage or something like that?
No, that would not be allowed in the B2.
Okay, all right.
Okay, Bill Brown?
That was my question.
Okay. Eric Jacobson.
This looks familiar to me. Now, I know that we previously saw a proposal for the entire block, and we said no to that. But I thought that we previously also saw something for the partial block.
There was an earlier application for, I don't know if you can see here, but for all of the properties other than 707 North Lincoln, half here of 705 North Lincoln, 703 North Lincoln, and 903 Hill. So there was an L-shaped property.
Oh, okay, so this is scaled back from
Yes.
the one we previously saw. Okay.
Okay. Did you want to say something, Mr. Wakeland?
I think that this case is pretty well known. Rebecca, I think, says it goes back to 2005.
Would you like to sit down and talk into the microphone, please?
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Well, I think this case goes back to 2005, although Rebecca keeps her records. I just keep trying to get a change. I don't really think I want to say too much tonight. Why did I ask to speak during this time? Because each time previously, you've had somebody who's objected to whatever it is we wanted to try to do. And then I was helpless. I couldn't speak from the crowd. I couldn't give a rebuttal. So my main reason for wanting to be here at the end of this thing is if there's any rebuttal that I need to make, I'll be happy to make it. And that's why I asked to be here. For the new members on the council, my kids tell me, Dad, please don't go to council anymore because you get a turn down. Okay, so maybe we'll get approval tonight. I don't know. We'll find out. Rebecca has already shown you the zone request. You'll notice that north of us there is a small area which is already zoned for business. On the south of us, it's industrial zoning. Across the street, catty-cornered, is the Carl campus. And directly across the street, I don't know. I'm led to believe that Carl owns most of those houses now. I don't know whether that's true or not. The fact remains that it is in a changing neighborhood. I think it will be continued in a continued neighborhood. Now, insofar as the road there, we did not ask for a four-way light on the corner, but the city put it in. We have had lights on that street all along. They're not very bright, not very many, but they've been there on that street ever since we bought it, and that's been over, well, I don't know, 20 years or something like that. So it is a street, it has been a street, it should be treated like a street now, particularly with a traffic light at the end of it. Councilman Charlie Smythe was on the edge of getting this thing maybe solved about a month ago. He was suggesting exactly what we are asking for now, and I've briefly spoken with him, not at great length, but every time we tried to do something, there was some kind of an objection. The fact remains, in this plat, there are 11 properties. We own 9 of them, and the other 2 have been a problem for us. So bottom line is that we're asking for zoning on those 4. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. I want to tell you, though, that what Rebecca said is correct, that we're trying to position ourselves so that we can do something on the southeast corner of University and Lincoln, where we presently hold about 4 acres of land and might be able to expand it to a little bit more than that. And part of that plot south and east of University and Lincoln is already zoned for business, but we're hoping to do something larger than that, and that's been our hope all this time. But coming back to this zoning, I am hopeful will be favorable to it. We've tried to tromp on nobody's toes by doing this, so if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Eric Jacobson.
This is in Ms. Ammon's ward, who happens not to be here. Have you discussed it with her?
With who now?
Carol Ammons.
I tried to, but I couldn't run her down. She's not here now.
No, yeah, she sits right next to me.
Well, I understand that, but I've been to her house 4 times trying to, and I had her on the phone once. So I've tried, but I just haven't been able to make a contact. I also tried to catch Mr. Madigan, but he's a busy guy, and I tried before lunch and I tried after lunch. Well, he's just gone, or he's just on. So it's pretty hard to find some of these people at the right time. Okay.
Oh, sure. I mean, that's that. I guess the only reason I asked the question is that I would. Were she here or did I know, I would value her view, since it's in her ward and the people around it are her constituents. But she's not.
Well, bottom line, I made the effort, but we didn't connect. Okay.
Okay, Charlie.
Well, as everybody knows, I supported doing these 4 last time, and I tried to get this expressed but got cut off. And I think, as I said before, these are the 4 obvious properties that need to be redeveloped that can't do anything other than a B2 or something like that. And so I'm very supportive of these, and I wish we'd gotten it done the last time. So unless there are further questions for Mr. Wakeland, I'd like to move approval of ordinance 2013-874.
Second.
Okay, motion by Smythe, seconded by Marlin. Any discussion? Dennis.
In the past, I've been very conscious of the objections of the residents who lived on Hill Street and on Lincoln, mainly because I felt that conserving the nature of a residential street, basically Hill Street, was an important aspect of respecting the neighborhood. Amazingly enough, Howard, I don't find that objection to be a problem for this reconfiguration. By keeping the construction that you're proposing on Church Street and not including anything along Hill Street and most of Lincoln, I think you've actually contained the project in a way that is compatible. And all I would say is that when we look at the whatever project you bring forward, I know that you have good building construction standards. You build quality buildings with good materials. just to remind you that there are buffering requests or requirements for protecting the neighbors that still will live along the northern side of the entire block. And those either vegetative or walls that have to be built to protect the residents from sight of the parking or the setbacks need to be respected. But I'm not going to object to this project.
Anyone else? Would the clerk please call the roll? Oh, did you want to say something, Bill? Go ahead.
Yeah, I can support this too. I think it's interesting when you have a comprehensive plan with all this future planning, but it doesn't really tell you when you're going to do it. So I think it's all a matter of timing and when the area is ready for it. I think the last plans that I saw where the development was a little bit more intensive, I don't think I would have been quite as appropriate, but I think, and I know you can do whatever you want with it once it's B2, but I take you at your word that's going to be an office and a warehouse, and that seems like a good transitional use of the property to get to that comprehensive plan. Thanks.
Okay, would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Madigan?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yep.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
That motion carried.
Howie, we all love you.
Thank you.
Okay, finally, I have some appointments. Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission, Carrie Brown Tess. Civil Service Commission, Tracy Nally. And then I handed out more detailed explanation because there are staggered terms for the new Urbana Champaign Big Broadband, the corporate, the not-for-profit. So I'm recommending Pete Resnick for the 1-year term, Carol Ammons for the 2-year term, and Brandon Bowersox Johnson for the 3-year term.
Move approval.
Second that.
Motion by Smythe, seconded by Roberts. Any discussion? Diane?
I realize with UC2B these days, everything is hurry up and do it tomorrow. So I will support these appointments. And I just wondered if people will have an opportunity to apply through our regular application process when, for example, when this next 1-year term is up.
We did have some people apply, but I thought these 3 were the most qualified.
Oh, we did have an application process?
Right.
Okay.
We always do.
Okay. Well, I just wasn't aware. Was it advertised or publicized?
I don't know, but I did get a couple of emails from people.
Okay.
So,
well,
but, this is the very beginning,
Oh,
and
I
I think you
understand.
don't want to just have complete newcomers. It would be better to start with some people who are familiar with it. So, it's a 1-year, so in a year we'll have it
right.
advertised.
No, these are excellent appointments, but I was asked about the process and opportunity to apply.
Well, I don't know if it was
so-
formally out there, but I did get some emails.
Okay. We'll look at it next time.
Okay, all those in favor, or was there a motion? Yeah, there was a motion. Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries. Thank you very much. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned.